I got the fuel tank out and got the pump out just to check the condition of the tank. Forgot to turn the light on, but try not to drop my phone in here. Sorry, it's going to be sideways. It's the only way it works. Looks pretty damn good in here. Just got to get this gas out, but don't think I got to worry about any type of refurbishing other than exterior. Alright. The tank is empty. Looks like old dirty pond water. I think that's going to be mower gas right there. I think it was the night after I had done this shot right here that I started thinking about what it was going to be like trying to apply POR 15 to the bottom of this car, laying on my back and getting dripped all over. And I decided to just pull the trigger on getting the rotisserie and knowing that it was going to produce a higher quality result in the end anyway. Since there's no instructions with these, I didn't build them on camera because I had to figure the first one out just by a picture. This one has the little, I think these are like extra support legs to keep it from possibly tipping over. So this is how it'll look when the car is bolted to it. This is how it looks when you're up and moving it around. Now I just gotta drag them across my rocky ground over to that car. Sorry, that car. Got super lucky this car doesn't have a bumper on it, and those mounts are actually in really good shape. Sweet. Man, our local junkyard's getting a little greedy. I got one set of the front bumper mount, obviously to mount the rotisserie on there, and I got two rear sets, one for the rotisserie and one because the ones on that car were just rusty and I scrapped them. 40 bucks. 40 bucks for these 6 little pieces. They're probably a pound each. So to make this rotisserie mounting plate, the rear at least, I'm going to cut these studs off, and then we're going to cut this edge off to give it something flat to sit on. And then obviously when you cut this stuff off, it's going to lose its structure here. So I have plate steel right there to weld onto the bottom to get that structure back. Alright, while those are in the oven, I'm going to start cleaning up the shop. It's dark, it's almost 9 o'clock, it's time to go inside, but I don't want to start the day tomorrow like this. I mean, there's like 4 pounds of metal shavings on the floor, let alone everything else on the floor. It's actually not ridiculously difficult to turn this thing. I did grease these up, make sure they turn nice. Like if I let go right now, it's pretty balanced. Which is pretty cool. Check that out. I wonder if this is the first Sentra that's been on a rotisserie. Obviously not like a B13. Everybody loves B13s, but B15's like the redheaded stepchild. At least in the United States, this might be the first B15 Spec V that's been on a rotisserie outside under a janky awning attached to a barn. This is trippy looking at. Now let's take a quick break from the disassembly of this car and look at some of the plating process I was doing for this build. Freshly acid dipped, ready for some blasting. So for the really tiny things, I have a little coffee can, hole in the lid, put the gun down in it, spray it, and just kind of shake the can. And you might have to empty it a couple times, but this is the second time around, probably 20-30 seconds. Look at that, it works pretty well. It gets everything. And you don't have to try to hold these little things with the big bulky sandblaster gloves. I'm going to go ahead and stick some bolts in the plating tank, let them run 20-30 minutes a batch while I work on cleaning up the bottom of this car some more. Alright, last thing here, and then let's get right back to taking apart this car. So one of the things I'm contemplating on how to address on the bottom of this car is the factory rubberized undercoating. Here, it's not really an issue, but spots like back here, you'll see I sanded on here where it was actually starting to cause some rust here because the seam sealer was holding water. And well, that's the problem with the seam sealer, not the undercoat. But the undercoat here, this is actually causing a problem around these holes where water can get under it. Same with here. You can see I sanded it down where there was some rubberized undercoat. And you can even see here, it's still trying to like pick off a little bit, and you can can see the seam sealer combo and the rubberized coating underneath it is rusty metal that needs work, but it looks fine because the undercoat. Oh, here's a good part of it. Yeah, there you go. See, under this undercoat is surface rusted metal. Now it's not a serious structural issue yet. That's why I'm going to get this stuff off and get a rust reformer on it so it doesn't become an issue, but I don't want to leave it alone and then have it become a big problem. See, areas like here too, I sanded this just to see how good the metal was underneath, and very quickly I got down to bare metal. So like this little bit of surface rust is just that, it's just surface rust. So all through here and down along here I made good progress on a lot of the surface rust, but this, well, now for a 20-year-old car and the lowest model that Nissan made at the time, I believe, this is actually in pretty good shape. It's got a little bit of surface rust here and there, but it doesn't have any rust holes in the frame. But we're gonna make it look even better. I want to address all the rust. These usually go first, which I'm glad that these are still intact. On mine, there's actually holes. So now that the rust is cut out here, and then obviously you saw me spray that weld through primer to make sure they don't rust between the two pieces of metal that were patched there. After I'm finished stripping the bottom of this car and it gets coated with POR 15, I'm gonna seam seal all the edges of that panel just as the factory would when they're making the body out of sheet metal and spot welding everything. So in order to wash the bottom of this car, I have a 55-gallon drum full of water that is in the back of my truck because I had to drive to the house and fill it, which runs down to this little pump, which is powered by the generator that I've been using to use the grinder on the bottom of this thing, and then comes out of the hose that I can then spray off the bottom of this thing with. So I'm about halfway through the metal etch process, and if you notice, the car's a lot less brown. It's actually, I mean, obviously it's etching. When I spray this off, it'll come off. I don't want to touch it because it's probably an acid base, I'm not really sure. But like this was completely rusty like this, and you can see when I sprayed it a second time, it actually started blowing rust off. So as the name implies, by metal etcher, it eats the rust, it burns it off essentially. So the POR 15 has a better base to stick to. I mean, even though it's POR 15 means paint over rust, the better base you got, the better the result. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it It's like 7:30, so in the fall that means it's dark now. I don't have a problem staying up late to get a couple coats on this thing, but no matter how many times I keep drying this, it's wicking a little bit of moisture from underneath some of the panels from washing it. So I am just going to have to wait a few days. It's going to rain for the next 2, so I'm going to get it all tarped up. And it is what it is. I'd rather do it right the first time than screw it up and do it twice. And just like that, winter is setting in. It was just a couple days ago I etched the bottom of this car, and I was going to paint it, but I was like, I'm going to wait 2 days because it's going to rain both those days. Well, both those days did rain, and on the third day it is 30 degrees and everything is frozen, so winter is setting in that fast. So my plan to get this thing going again, I don't think I'm going to be painting this today. The hottest it's supposed to get is like 48. So I'm going to spend the day prepping the bay and the front wheel wells. So that way tomorrow, it's also supposed to be sunny, but it's supposed to hit almost, I think it's supposed to hit 59. So about 60 degrees. That'll be pretty good. I could even paint it at 60 degrees, like paint the body. That's the paint I have is slow cure, or is it fast? I can't remember, but it's for 60 to 70 degrees. So obviously at 60, it'll cure a little slower to have more time to outgas. So that's perfect, but it's not going to be ready to paint the body tomorrow. But I might be able to paint most of the underside of the car with the POR 15, and then Saturday and Sunday, the next 2 days, it's going to be clear and not rainy, so the stuff will be able to cure without having too much humidity around. So that might actually work out very well. The barn is just a tad bit warmer in here than it is outside. It's kind of weird that this thing has a little bit of heat retained in it just from it not being windy in here. Alrighty, just got the bay ground down, all wire wheeled. Sorry about the lighting, it's not optimal. The sun is blasting over here, but everything is ground nice and smooth and clean. The wheel wells are looking good. Everything's ready to get etched. So everything that's going to get POR 15 treated has freshly been etched and rinsed. I redid the bottom as well, which you've already seen. And as soon as it's dry, I'm going to start brushing it on. Well, I'm almost done the first coat. Just so you know, if we follow this trail here, something I didn't know, I wanted some disposable bowls to use to hold the paint because, you know, POR 15 is supposed to be hard to get off on purpose. It eats styrofoam, so I've been using these styrofoam bowls. It eats through them. I was trying to get this to the trash instead of dumping it all over the grass, but painted the shop floor. Awesome. So this has been sitting for about 36 hours since we painted it. I say we because Cheyenne and I came out and did the last coat on it together. She helped me get it done a little quicker because it was getting real dark and I was running out of time. It took longer than I expected to paint the whole bottom of the car. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. Wow, that is glossy. Well, that looks pretty good. Nice that looks. So we painted over the existing undercoat mainly because I wanted to look uniform. If this was a full-on restoration, I would have only POR 15 protected the metal surfaces and then gone under and painted the car on the underside. Just, you know, satin black or something to make it all match. Or I would have completely removed all of the undercoating in POR 15, all of it, if it was a very complete restoration. But that's not the trajectory of this build. Any undercoat that was puffy or had any type of coloration I took off, and anyway, I mean, that's how we ended up patching this section here that was a little rusty, and then along the bottom here. So this car's gonna last a good long while anyway, but this was just the quickest, most, I don't know, efficient, most affordable way to do this for the trajectory I had for this build. I'm not sure I would do it again because, at least in my experience, no matter how much I degreased it, the POR does not like sticking to undercoat because it's not metal. So I had to do quite a few coats, but it looks kind of fantastic. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Again, I would have painted it all one color after POR 15, but I'm outside and I can't roll this rotisserie in grass. So if I had a shop that I could roll it into the paint booth that I bought, the like inflatable one, and this was on concrete and all that, yeah, I probably would have done that, but it's almost impossible out here. So look at this. Look at this front crash structure. It's all shiny and new looking. Not gonna rust again like all the Sentras do. Nice. I did even the underside of the frame rails and everything up inside the strut towers. Got it all protected, and hopefully that'll make it last a long time. I also painted in the bay. I didn't paint all the way around where the steering column boot goes because, well, the top of it wasn't rusty. The bottom was trying to rust, so I only wanted to protect what needed protected. This is all going to get painted the factory color again anyway, so I only did the parts that are prone to rusting. The firewall is still rust free, so